He has seen agents try to get you to sign an agreement with them just to see one house and then do nothing else for you, but then try to come back and claim commission on a separate house. Does that actually happen?
Welcome to the Real Estate Replay, highlights and consumer stories in real estate that the industry doesn't want you to hear. Hosts Wendy Gilch and Lindy Chapman are breaking down the good, the bad, the unethical, and sometimes illegal stories of recent home sellers and buyers. Learn what they did right, what they did wrong, and what they wish they would have done differently. It's the only real estate podcast that tells you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about the industry.
This says, a question about my agent's exclusivity contract. I just got an email of this contract to sign from the realtor I've been working with. It's for 1 year, and it says that if I purchase a home through him, I agree to pay 2.7% of the purchase price to the realtor. Is this normal? Because I always thought sellers paid this stuff. So this was their question. And they want to know if 1 year is normal for an agreement with a buyer's agent.
I've certainly seen them that way. I'm not sure about the buyer paying 2.7%. Is that what it says?
That's what it said. I guess I think they don't phrase it right. So if the sellers,
they may have been right. Yeah, they may not have been reading it right. I don't know. But beside from that, let's talk about the date.
Right.
A lot of times agents will do that and they slide it in with the contract if you're writing a contract or if you are an offer, or just when you go to meet with them and they will say something like, my broker requires this or whatever. And I just always, the way I do it, there was a certain way I had to do it at one of the brokerages I worked, but I dictate it, I write it like the way I would want something like that written with me. And I always tell my clients, I always included even a disclaimer in there that if at any point they're not happy with me, that agreement can be broken without cause. I would say the main thing to do is just you dictate the terms, right? You are the client, and dictate the terms. And a couple of terms that you can dictate in one of these is the property shown or the time or the location. So for example, you've called an agent and you want them to show you 123 Main Street. In the agreement, you could write that if you buy 123 Main Street, that property is the one that the agent represents you on. And so if you do go to buy it that week or 6 weeks later, then you would have a contracted agreement with them. You may or may not want to do that, and I get that. The other way to do it would be to put it for a certain time frame, like for a day, the day that they, or for a week, or maybe you could even do 30 days. You could designate a city or a county. Again, I would just say, do it on your own terms, right? Because if you go to a doctor and you don't like the doctor, you don't have to go back to them, right? You've got the ability to change. And I just think we have to be able to, the consumer has to be able to do that. I understand from the agent standpoint, we don't get paid unless you work with us. But at the end of the day, it has to be what's right for the consumer.
Right. And then I had a friend on TikTok say that he has seen agents try to get you to sign an agreement with them just to see one house and then do nothing else for you, but then try to come back and claim commission on a separate house. Does that actually happen?
It happens. I don't know how well that holds up. And I don't know how many people would pursue it. I've certainly had it happen with me, and I just chalked it up as it's just kind of the business. And then I got better about writing my contracts out and making them so they were a win-win, and explaining to my clients, look, I don't get paid unless you buy with me. But at the same time, I don't want to punish you for having to work with me if you find a for sale by owner, or maybe you find an office exclusive with another brokerage, right? And that's another reason why I don't sign one of these in blood, because when I moved to Dallas, you've probably heard me say this before, I had 4 different brokerages sending me their off-market listings. Right. I didn't want to be beholden, and I'm an agent. I had access to MLS. But I didn't want to lose out on those off-market properties. And so that would be another reason to even put a clause in there that if we find an off-market property listed with another brokerage, that agent will get paid, because they've shown you homes, will get paid a referral fee. whatever percent that wants to be, but that'll come out of that agent's pocket. It's not going to come out of the consumer's pocket.
Want to share your experience with us? Drop by therealestatereplay.com and submit your story or even ask us a question.